Hey, it is Sunday, October 7th, 2018, and this is Breaking Late News. Hey, everyone. I am Eric from longboxreview.com, and joining me, as always, for these news episodes is my good friend, Travis. Hey, Travis.
Howdy, howdy.
Travis from the Oddfellows Thoughts YouTube channel.
Yep.
Of course, everybody watching this live on YouTube knows Travis. They don't know me. They know me through Travis. How's that?
Possibly.
I think that's accurate.
But if that's the case, you should have more subscribers than you have on YouTube then.
What?
So
what are you saying, Travis? I don't have a lot of subscribers? What?
No, I'm just saying that you don't have as many as I do, and you should.
That's very true.
You probably should have more because you have much more professional content than I do. So mine tends to be turn on the camera and ramble. So
that's kind of how I feel whenever I do these or do the podcast. But anyway, so we are here as always once a month to get together and talk about all the news that we see fit to report or comment on, I guess, not really report, comment on for the last month. This, however, is we're recording the first weekend of October, right? No, second weekend, whatever it is. We're recording the Sunday of New York Comic-Con, and so we have a little bit of news coming out of that as well. But we're going to go back in time, which is why this is called Breaking Late News. It's funny, I put the emphasis on breaking. I should say breaking late news.
Late news.
So we're going to go back to about September, and we're going to talk about stuff that's roughly in the order in which this information came out, with a few exceptions because it made sense to group some stuff together. So first up in the list, Travis and I talked about DC getting comics into Walmart. That apparently has been successful enough that they are going to expand the number of books that they're going to be putting into Walmart stores for, the normals,
the Mondays,
to have access to. What was the term in Harry Potter to refer to the non-magic people?
Muggles.
Muddles?
Muggles.
Oh, Muggles. Yes.
Yep.
The Muggles. Yeah. That's so derogatory. We shouldn't. No. Okay. But anyway, so there's going to be two new titles. One is Flash. Another one I don't think they've announced yet. Have they, Travis?
I don't think so.
Which is odd because this has been about a month. Like I said, I would have thought they would have had some news perhaps about this coming out of New York Comic-Con. But then again, we are recording Sunday morning. The con's still going on, so who knows what will happen between now and when the con ends. And then they're doing two holiday specials, one of which is a Swamp Thing Halloween horror special, which I believe is already on the shelf. Or no, it goes on sale today, October 7th. So maybe I need to go to Walmart today and pick up.
That's what I was thinking too. God, I have to go to Walmart. Oh. Well, because my question is this original content, or are they grabbing a bunch of spooky Swamp Thing stories and slapping them all in a?
Well, it's 100 pages, so they gotta be reprinting some stuff. I have to guess.
Well, see, then I don't want to get it.
Do you have all those Swamp Thing stuff?
I'm sure I do.
Do you really? I don't.
Unless they're reprinting Silver Age stuff, because I don't own all of that.
Oh,
but
okay.
I can't imagine they're going to throw Silver Age stuff in there. Maybe they would. I'm assuming it's all modern stuff, and anything that's modern that's got Swamp Thing in it, I'm fairly sure I own. So, because anytime there's a miniseries or whatever, even though I know I'm probably not going to like it depending on who's doing it, I pick it up because I'm a Swamp Thing fan.
Which is why you want to.
But I'm not so much of a Swamp Thing fan that I need to go and purchase a 100-page book of stuff I already own. So, and if there's only 20 pages in there of new content, then I have to hum and haw about whether or not do I think it's going to show up someplace else at some point. And I also worry, does this mean we're going to lose? Because, DC has always put out holiday issues. They've always put out a Halloween-ish of some sort where it's like a thicker book that's got, 3 or 4 new content stories in it of some trick or treating or ghosty kind of thing, and then at Christmas time they always put out a holiday special. Are we going to lose that in the direct market and it become this thing that goes to Walmart?
That's a good question. I want to say I doubt it, but it's still a good thing to consider. That would be unfortunate because I like getting those holiday specials because it is all new content.
Right. Yeah, I don't know.
Or maybe next year they reprint some of that say Halloween stuff that we're getting this year for the $5 Walmart book.
Could be.
It's a good way to capitalize on existing content.
Right. Yeah, I think the Walmart thing is a good thing. I mean, I don't in any way, shape, or form think the Walmart thing is a bad thing. But I own a comic book shop, so clearly, as we've talked about in the past, and the last time we talked about this, I have no idea what it does to a brick and mortar store. I mean, yeah, it takes that sale away, but everybody seems to believe that there is this giant audience out there that wants to read comic books. They just don't understand that they exist. And they're trying to figure out a way to let them know that comic books exist. Beyond those multi-million-dollar movies that they show that they could put advertisements around heavily if they were smart and attempt to push comic books that way. But I think that's one of the reasons behind this, right? Is that, and I mean, and the books, to my understanding, have in them, it explains how to find a comic book shop.
Okay, that's what I was just going to say. That it's not really that they don't understand that there are comics out there that they can get. It's how do I get the comics?
Right.
Because for the most part, you have to go to a comic shop. Well, where's that? Do I have one? But you just answered the question. Well, I don't know. So if you see a national advertisement for comics being promoted through a movie ad or whatever, and they say, for more information about your local, to find these comics, go to your local comic shop. For more information, go to this website, or you call this number. There's a 1-800 number. Who's going to do that? Who's going to who's going to call? But who could be bothered to look up this comic book shop thing and then find that you don't have one nearby? You have to drive 2 hours to. It's just, I don't know. It's a weird situation, and I don't know. There's a good answer to this.
No, there's not. But I think that's one of the reasons why they're doing this, though.
They're selling more books.
Walmart,
for sure. Yeah. I think it's probably a good response to the problem, or at least it's a response to the problem.
It's a response, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll come back to this because there's some other news related to this whole idea. But I wanted to ask you, Travis. So we have, Flash is going to be the next ongoing. So we have a Batman, a Superman, a Justice League, right? We don't have a Wonder Woman, right?
Which is stupid.
Yeah, exactly. Why would you not have Wonder Woman? So now we'll have a Flash. So, obviously Batman, Superman, yes. Justice League, I can totally see why they do that. They should do Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Flash makes sense because there's a Flash TV series on right now.
Right.
There's an Arrow show that's pretty popular right here.
Yeah.
Why don't they have that? Maybe that's the next one, right? There's a Supergirl TV show that, while perhaps not as popular as Arrow, still, I mean, I actually like that show better than all the other ones, but why not have that? I don't know. They're just, so they sort of tie into their other media, but they don't, I don't know. Just, it's like they're not all in. And I realize, you have to phase this stuff in. You're testing the waters. You're putting your toe in the water, so to speak. But I don't know. Just it's weird the choices they make. Why Flash?
Well, it's like, because part of what it seems to be is I get why Flash, because I mean the Flash show, the group of fans that I associate with online and whatnot are the biggest fans of that over all the other shows. That's the one they like the best. It's weird because they're flirting with a new audience, but catering to the audience they already have.
Right.
So who's buying the majority? I still question who's buying the majority of these Walmart books. Is it those of us who typically would not go into Walmart looking for a comic book? We're rushing in because we think we have to buy whatever content is in there. And we're the ones that are buying it. I have no idea because anybody that I know that's buying comic books are comic book readers. And so therefore they're the old audience who normally would not be buying their comic books at Walmart kind of thing. It's not like I have not run into anybody, and that's just because the circles I operate in, for them to go, hey, I saw a comic book in Walmart or whatever. That's not happened. So I have no idea. I have no idea if those books are actually being bought by, 7 to 13-year-old kids going, like I did.
Like, exactly.
I did back in the day out the spinner racks, where it was all just this amazing stuff there. I have no idea. Other than I have to admit the pictures of the displays that I have seen, those racks, the boxes that those books are sitting on are like on the top shelf. So if you're not a 5'6" to 6 foot kid, you're not seeing the book anyway. You have to hope your parents are going to pick it up.
I was just going to ask you that if you've actually seen them in your local Walmart store.
I personally have not
because what you just described is totally accurate.
Yeah,
at least at my store.
Mm-hmm.
I was just looking at them last week because I was curious about this news that we're talking about to see what was there and whatnot. And yeah, what you just described is totally true because they're up on the shelf. Maddie, who is under 5 feet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she can see that they're up there, but she can't reach up there and grab one. She had to ask me to hand her one. And it's just this little tiny, I'm on the video. I'm showing my hands here. It's a little wider because it holds
the width of like what, 2 books,
2 side by side.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's among all this other crap on the shelves, right? Where, I say crap, I don't mean bad, I mean it in a bad way, but it's all this, collectible card game stuff and, Magic the Gathering stuff, just all this, fan related gaming type, curiosities and whatnot.
Geek stuff, yeah.
Yeah, geek stuff, exactly. Mm-hmm. And here's these comic books that are up on this top shelf, and I don't know. It's not a good delivery mechanism, in my opinion, but yeah, it's weird. It's great that the comics are in the stores and maybe getting other readers, new readers, young readers. I don't know, but not seeing them, because when the news first came out, there was all this talk about how people were like us were going in, old comic fans, and buying everything off the shelf and then reselling them on eBay. I heard that, and
God bless the secondary market.
Yeah, I did not see that in my store. There are plenty of copies. I could probably even get issue number 1 of some of those still.
Yeah, because I guess I need to take some time and go into my store just out of curiosity to see what's there, because I have no idea.
Yeah.
What's.
I'm just not willing to spend $5 on reprint material.
See, that's what me too. And my understanding is at some point the stuff that's in there, that's in these little segments, because if you buy them all, you're gonna get there's one new story, like Bendis's Batman or whatever, that's gonna get reprinted someplace else as its own whatever, and so. I'll look at it when, when that comes up. That's going to be what, what I do. If I decide I'm even going to get that. So.
Okay. Well, let's move on to new comics coming out from DC. There's a couple 12-issue series. One that really piques my interest, and one I was curious. Both I'm curious about what you think about it, Travis, but. The first one that I wanted to point out is a new Martian Manhunter series coming actually in a couple months in December. This is written by Steve Orlando, and this is why I want to get this. I mean, I love Martian Manhunter. I tend to get the runs of Martian Manhunter that DC deigns to give us, just because I don't know. There's something about the character I really like.
Yep.
But artist Riley Rosmo is doing the art, and I don't know about how you feel, Travis, about Riley Rosmo, but you put him on anything, I'll buy it. Because the guy, his style is so unique and so much fun. I imagine what he's going to do with a shape-changing Martian.
Right. And it sounds to me like they're going to kind of touch back on his detective roots, have him be the detective
Oh,
in the
John
story.
Jones, the detective? Yeah.
Right. So I'm cool with that. And as far as Riley Rosmo art, I'm a huge Riley Rosmo fan. I own 4 pages of original art.
I did not know this.
Yeah, from Constantine to Rasputin and stuff like that. Yeah, so yeah, very much. I have a hard time envisioning what it would be that Riley Rosmo would do that I would not at least initially pick up to see what was going on with it. I mean, I have to admit, I'm not the biggest fan of his Batman, just because his little ears that make him look more like Daredevil. I'm not real keen on that aspect of his, and that's just his style, his whatever. But yes, him drawing something where he can just basically go bonkers, shape changing wise and whatnot. I'm all over that, and I'm excited for this 12 issue format. It's they have a commitment. They know there's an end to whatever it is they're doing, so it's not like they're winging 3 or 4 issues and hoping they get enough of an audience that they can do more as creators. They kind of know they've got a beginning and an end, so we know hopefully we're going to get a full story. So I love that idea behind the 12 issue aspect of it. Plus, it's long enough to tell us more than one thing within that. You know what I mean? Because in this modern age of writing, it seems to be 6 issues is an arc kind of thing. So you get the opportunity to kind of tell multiple things within it. I'm reading the Raven miniseries. Well, whatever you call it now, maxi series, whatever it is. It's 12 issues. I'm reading it, and that's kind of how it has been. The first 6 issues were kind of one story that led into, with hints of what was going to be in the second 6 issues. So I like that. I mean, if that's how they're gonna do these stories, I'm all keen for the 12 issues. I've got a year of this book, to enjoy, and then I don't have to worry. I don't have to. Is it gonna suddenly fold under? Am I only gonna get part of a story? With lots of times when they launch a new book, you're reading it, and I enjoy it regardless. But always in the back of my brain, it's this tickling: am I gonna get to see the end of the story, or is not enough people gonna buy it and they cancel it, and then I don't. It frustrates me not to get a full story, but I like the format, the 12 issue format.
Yeah, I do. I love to see more of these. And wishes is your command. We there's another one here.
Yes.
Talked about another 12 issue series, a Freedom Fighters series and so here's another name that I'm like, I want to buy this. Writer Robert Venditti and Eddie Barrows is doing the art. And so this is set on Earth X for those fans who remember the old DC multiverse, where the Nazi Germany took over. They won the war, and so you get this band of freedom fighters, including Uncle Sam and others. Travis, I'm sure, could rattle off all the names of the characters involved in the classic version of this story, but. How much are you looking forward to this, Travis?
I'm super excited. I love the Freedom Fighters. Anytime the book that comes out, I'm just super excited by it. I mean, I've enjoyed the last 2 or 3 renditions of it. They've never caught on with a larger audience, and so they get canceled and whatnot. And it's always been the same creators basically doing the book. So I'll be curious to see now, after having 20 some issues of Jimmy Palmolani and Justin Gray doing the story for so long, and their take on the characters of what we've seen for so long. It'll be interesting to see somebody else do it. Writer wise, I don't have an opinion one way or the other. I've read some of Venditti's stuff and enjoyed it, and other stuff I'm like, okay, that's fine. I mean, I'm not disliked anything, but I'm not like over the moon like you are. So,
man.
But I love Eddie Burroughs.
He deserves a lot more credit than he's given. Yeah. But go on.
I love Eddie Burroughs. Eddie Burroughs is a great kind of classic 4-color superhero artist. He's really good at that style of doing stuff. So I mean, I think it'll look awesome. Like I said, I love those characters. They're kind of like the characters we've seen, but they're enough different than what's would be your stereotypical Justice League or JSA, that they kind of have their own thing about them. And Yeah, I really like him as much as I just from my own, political background and whatnot, I usually am off put by in your face patriotic kind of stuff. I always struggle like with Captain America, depending on how he's portrayed. If he's just really in your face patriotism, always kind of, because my personal experience with that is those people usually are toxic to me. But
the jingoistic political
yes,
side, yeah.
Yeah. But the freedom fighters always hit just the right kind of note. They've always been just in the right kind of place because it's the spirit of America, not America. Because that's what Uncle Sam embodies. Uncle Sam embodies the spirit of that. So as far as that kind of, patriotism, Nazi punching sort of a thing, I'm all for it. And to be quite honest, I haven't read a lot of freedom fighters where they're actually fighting actual Nazis. They're usually saving America in some other way, because the books I've read, most of what's been current has been them kind of dealing with current stuff, not really current, but current kind of things where evil corporations and stuff like that are the threat to America more so than Earth X, where, like you said, the Nazi Germany took over the world, and I'm excited for it. I am absolutely stoked.
Do you speaking of what they deal with, though, it seems like perhaps they're tapping into something current, some current events or current, what's the word I'm looking for? Vibe. That whole punch a Nazi meme that's been going around. I don't know. It seems like they're commenting on that perhaps a little bit, but it's very much an established DC trope to have the freedom fighters on Earth X fighting against Nazi Germany.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So, it'll be curious. It'll be curious to see how they, what do they deliver? What does the current version of that world look like? In the past, if you go back to the really old comics of them, it was very cut and dry. The Nazis are still goose stepping, and it's still very, it's still very black and white. And I'll be curious to see with a 12 issue, how are they going to deliver that world? It'll be interesting to see if they deliver it in a way that would be a commentary on current affairs or not, or is it simply going to be, it's going to look like World War II. Kind of a thing, except Germany won, or are they going to move it forward into what a modern world that had been taken over by Germany looks like? Mm-hmm. So,
oh yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So I wonder, will it be a commentary, or is it literally just going to be? Or is it going to be 12 issues of war comics that have superheroes in it?
I think it's going to be a bit of both, but probably more of the former.
Cool.
I'd have, given Venditti, I'd have to say, I'm not actually all that familiar with Eddie Barrow's work.
He did, well, you have to be, because he did artwork on Nightwing off and on for a while.
Oh, okay.
In like the New 52 year, I think he did. He started out doing the art on the Rebirth Detective Comics too, I think. He's kind of bounced around in the Batman world for a while. You'd know it if you saw it.
Yeah, I'm sure I would. It's just I can't think of anything in particular. It's not like he doesn't, in my mind, he's not like a George Perez or
right.
Keith Giffen or whatever. So right. Yeah, there's so many artists, I can't keep track of them. But last thing I'll say on that, Travis, it's interesting, has nothing to do with what we just talked about, but it's interesting that DC seems to be opening up the multiverse. Yes, because after Crisis, of course, there was no multiverse, but then things started to show up here and there, and then we did. Grant Morrison did Multiversity, and then there's other things that happened before that, but that seemed to have some traction for a while in the DC universe, where they had 52 universes. But then we got the Dark Multiverse now, and now we've got this Earth X thing. And so it's almost like, old DC is coming back in terms of the multiversal aspects.
Well,
Uh,
I mean, so whoever hated the multiverse to make it all shut down, cool and all, but I think almost most of the DC fans, if they need longevity whatsoever, love all that other weird stuff.
yeah,
I mean, that's one thing I've always liked about DC was the fact is that you could have this. There's this other world where things are operating a little differently, or however differently they, the creators chose to make it at the time and whatnot. So
exactly. Yeah. Okay. This next thing, a couple things about Oni Press. I'm going to, for the people that are watching the video, I'm going to share my screen here so you can see this. Hopefully this works. Travis told me how to do it before. But
blame it on me if it doesn't work. You're nice.
Are you seeing that? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So,
try out the vote.
So Oni Press is doing, or has launched a couple things. One of which is a website called drawoutthevote.com. And people watching can see this on my screen, where you can go and select your state. And there is I'm going to do this as I talk and see if this works. Travis, let me know if this is not working. But you can select your state and click there, and you get a little comic done by someone. This is Idaho's. It says not Ohio or Iowa, and those of us in Idaho know exactly what this means. Yes. This is done by Terry. I want to say Blas, which nice little comic. Travis, I read the one from your state. That is particularly poignant. I don't know if you've looked at it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you get this little thing about your state in relation to voting, and you get more information about voting in your state, which I thought was pretty damn cool. So there you go. You get to find out this information, and you get a little bit of comic goodness as well. So there's that. And then, can you see that, Travis? I've switched over.
Yep.
Oni Press has launched a webcomics site. And so here are some stuff. Oh, there's the draw out the vote. I guess I could have just gone here. But there's a comic by Sarah Grayley called Kim Reaper. Megan Rose Gedris has Spectacle, and Paul Tobin and Colleen Coover has Banana Sunday, which is interesting, Travis, because they collected this and are printing a trade of Banana Sunday.
The color version, right? I mean,
I'm sure it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I thought that was pretty cool that they're doing, especially the draw out the vote.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know if that's going to draw extra voters, but it's fun.
Well, I think any kind of help to point people in the right direction to vote, especially first-time voters, young voters who've never done it before, people who may have be a lapsed voter. I just think it's important to vote, regardless of your particular leanings. It's important to participate in this experiment that we call America. So I'm glad Oni's doing that. And then of course we get the new comics. Travis, it's digital comics. You gonna read it?
Probably not.
Really?
No.
Free content, man.
I know, free content, and I'm still not going to read it.
Oh, okay.
I've tried. I might check it out. I'm more inclined to read the trade that's coming out of the Banana comics and whatnot. I don't know. I don't like to read digital comics.
Yes.
Even free.
Wow.
I know, right?
Man. Okay. This is very old news, but worth commenting on. Marvel's so Marvel had announced a new Vision series, which was going to be a sequel to the Tom King. Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the artist's name. Travis, help me.
Wada.
Yeah,
Gabriel Wada. Yeah,
Gabriel Wada. Yeah. We and others kind of loved. I think. And so they were going to do the sequel, like I said. Chelsea Kane and her husband were writing it, and I've forgotten the artist's name, and I didn't put it in the notes. That is really bad of me. But anyway, they were working on it. They had, I think, the first issue or two done.
They had 2 issues completely in the can. The artist was actually working on the 3rd issue. 4 issues were completely written.
Yes. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then Marvel put it in their previews magazine for that month, and then canceled it for some reason.
Yeah.
And what's more interesting about this is that so Chelsea Kane. So when that happened, Chelsea Kane. And I saw this on Twitter. Actually, I think you brought it to my attention first, and then I was reading through it, and she was. I think you could say she was understandably upset about this because I listened to her being interviewed about this on the Creator Talks podcast. And she explained a lot of the background from her perspective on this. And what was more interesting about that was the reveal that, and she put this on Twitter too, but she basically was, I don't know if she was told this or what. Now my memory's getting a little fuzzy, but basically Marvel was hoping that she would be quiet about the cancellation, and she was like, "Oh hell no!" And then proceeded to air her how upset she was about this situation. Mm-hmm. And she did say on the Creator Talks interview that she probably figures that she will never work at Marvel again because of this. And I don't know, I thought that was, I understand why a company like Marvel would not want their creators to go onto Twitter or whatever and air dirty laundry, so to speak. Although there really wasn't much dirty laundry to air because there's not a lot of information.
Right. I mean, she's not even telling us why it was canceled.
Exactly.
So, because I'm assuming she doesn't know.
Yeah,
because
I don't know.
Because if she knew, why wouldn't she say that part too?
I would figure she would.
Unless it's canceled because it's her fault and it's something she's embarrassed about. And if that was the case, she wouldn't be talking about it at all.
I don't think so.
So
I assume like you that she did not know at that time why it was canceled.
Yeah.
And I've not heard anything since then. So this is this is about a month ago or so.
Yeah. Well, and whereas, of course, the last one of these we talked about this being announced, or 2 or 3 episodes ago of Late Breaking News, we talked about this, and I was kind of like, yeah, I don't know, because that first run was so great, I'm going to check this out, but I'm like, yeah, well, listening now to what the story was going to be about, I want that story. Yeah. I want to read it. Not even because it was canceled, even though, mind you, because it was canceled, that makes me curious too, why it was canceled when they had that much work done on it. But the story was, the reason her husband is helping write it is because the story was going to be about the Vision and V trying to pick up the pieces after the wreckage of the first volume of the Vision, and kind of the whole, father-daughter strain. And of course, I'm a sucker for that. I have kids, so any, father-kid story, I guess I've decided I clearly enjoy those if they're written well and whatnot. So I was curious about all of that, the funk that the Vision was going to be in, and the strain with his daughter. I wanted to read that from what they talked about. I'm like, damn it. As much as I was initially going, I don't know what I think of, not knowing. Clearly I'm talking, without knowing. Now that I know, I'm like, now I actually really wish that the book was out. It's all really curious. The whole, she doesn't figure she's going to work for Marvel again. She talked about the fact that, being a freelancer, they kind of, hold a proverbial gun to your head that anytime they do something that you don't like, you have to shut up, because if you don't, there's this threat that you don't work for them, and so how are you going to make money if that's how you make money and whatnot. I know there are other creators that have had those experiences in the past in one sense or another. Oh shoot, I can't remember his name. Experienced that 3 or 4 years ago. The guy who wrote I, Vampire, Jason Falkov, Hale Falkov. What's his name? I get it wrong. Anyway, he almost doesn't write comics anymore, but he was going to be writing Green Lantern for DC, and they wanted him to kill Jon Stewart, and he's like, no, I'm not doing that. And he basically aired that they wanted me to kill Jon Stewart, and I wasn't willing to do it, so I quit. And of course, he's never. That pretty much ended his working for DC. Now, is Chelsea Kane done working for Marvel? Yeah, for a while. They'll get over it. If there's something they really want her to do, or she has something really great, they'll get over it. I don't know if she'll get over it, but they'll get over it.
Yeah.
If there's money involved and they think they're going to make money, they'll like I said, they'll get over it. This wasn't so scandalous. Now, I mean, like if they had said or something awful and she said something that was truly awful, all she's basically said is, look, I'm not going to be quiet about the fact this thing was canceled. I don't know why it was canceled. We had this much work done on it and whatnot. She didn't say anything scandalous. Right? I mean, I don't remember it being anything scandalous. The most scandalous thing is it was implied that I shouldn't say anything and I'm going to say something. That's as close as it got to being scandalous. So it wasn't like, I don't know. Interesting. All the same.
And I you touched on this, but I think one of the more interesting aspects about what she was saying was revealing, the elements of, or the impact of freelancer, or the impact to freelancers by the company that they're working for, and that's it's I'm not one of those, so I don't know how that works as a working professional in that industry. So it was very enlightening to me as a reader, as a fan, to I kind of understand what they're going through. Especially when it's something, it's not like they cancel it. Well, we don't know why they cancel it, but it's not like, I assume that they were okay with the material they were receiving. Maybe I don't know, who knows, but there's too many unknowns here, really. But I guess I find it fascinating, and I commiserate with them, with the creators where they feel like they can't express themselves to their own satisfaction because they're worried about being not given work in the future or whatever. I don't know. Right. It's basically like Chelsea Kane said, it's an effed up industry.
Right. But just to some degree, unless you're self-employed, we all kind of work in that world to some degree, don't we? I mean, I do.
Well, I guess, I don't know. I guess the difference is,
if what you say is associated with where you work, and what you say is,
that's true,
is scandalous, it affects your employment, does it not? I mean, right. It does for me.
Right.
So, so I mean, so it's not totally alien.
Yeah.
But yes, it does feel like they're even more so.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. And I just want to mention the artist that was working on the vision with Chelsea Kane and her husband is Odd Coke.
Odd Coke, yeah.
So apparently, according to Chelsea Kane, the Ms. Coke is a fantastic artist, and I'm sure we'll be seeing more from her in other books.
They did get paid, though.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
They got paid their page rates and whatnot, so it wasn't like it was all for nothing as far as that goes. Mind you, there's the long-term pay that you might get out of it that you're not going to get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so this is a related subject. Travis brought this up as well. I don't want to say it, Travis, but I'm gonna. The Vanishing Batwing. Do you want to talk about this?
Yes, the other Bat member. That's how I've been referring to it. So DC has their new Black Label, and one of the first books to come out of that is Batman the Damned. And I mean, before the book was even out, it basically was, we were told that we were going to see, Batman in the full Monty, basically in his birthday suit, and they weren't going to be hiding anything in it, and so there's these panels, where Batman's penis is there, no big deal. I mean, at least for me, it's not like, it's not like, I mean, so it's there, but it's not like it's gratuitous. It's not like he's using it for something. It's zero sexual. He's a naked body. So if your hang up is naked bodies, I guess you have a hang up. But anyway, so before the book is even actually on the shelf, DC has already announced that the digital versions of it all have that edited out. So I'm assuming it's just a black spot. Because basically his crotch area is darkly shadowed anyway, and the Bat member catches the light, basically is the images in it. And all reprints of this book will have it gone. So 2 things. One, what's the point of having a mature black label and not have that stuff in it? What's the point of allowing it to get printed in the first place and then suddenly go, oh crap, and pull it out? Unless this is a weird way to create conversation about the book, which I don't think you needed to do. I don't think they needed to create that kind of controversy around it, because the book was going to sell just because it had the Bat member in it, if nothing else. And of course, the second that happened, this book on the secondary market is like $100 on eBay now. I don't know how many issues were printed, so I have no idea how large or small the run of the Batwang is, but I actually really enjoyed the book. I mean, because I'm like, so all I'm hearing about, because of course I get my books late, all I'm hearing about is that. I'm like, what is the rest of the book about? I'm like, how's the story? Whatever. What I actually enjoyed it. The art is amazing in it. So I don't know. I just thought it was interesting that you would have this black label you're touting as, we can do anything in it, and then you chicken out as soon as you do it.
Yeah. Again, who knows why they made these decisions, but it's the outside looking in appearance is that certain people involved in the production of this book were okay with this, and then perhaps somebody further up the chain got wind of this or whatever and freaked out because you don't show Batman's penis.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. It's like if you announce a mature label and you're going to do a mature Batman book, what are you so afraid of?
Exactly. And like I said, it wasn't like it was used in some what I would consider vulgar context.
Right.
I mean, granted, and maybe, I know for some people just the naked body is vulgar, but I don't know. It's not like, I mean, I would consider the regular Batman book, some of the rolling around on the roof of Catwoman stuff could be considered more vulgar than this was. I mean, if you want to go those directions, other than, America's hang up on naked bodies or naked men's bodies. I don't know if it would have been edited, if it would have been, Catwoman or Harley Quinn or whatever naked. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
The whole thing's weird. It just, like I said, it cracked me up. It's like, really? Okay. So,
and it also broke through. I mean, of course we're talking about comic book news, but we have news portals. We have people talking about this stuff, but it broke through to the other side, or to the larger audience, because Stephen Colbert was tweeting about it.
Right.
Seth Meyers actually had a bit.
I didn't catch that. Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, there's video of him talking about this. So, it got out there. So,
yeah. So, I mean, I don't know, under the Dan Didio theory of comics, maybe this is all a good thing. I don't know.
Excellent transition, Travis. Good job. So that was the next thing I wanted to go to. Dan Didio. Gotta love Dan, right? Often says some controversial things. Sometimes he says some interesting things, and sometimes he's just like, "Shut up, Dan." And we talked about that last time, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But this time, I wanted to touch on this stuff he said about. He said this specifically. He was talking about Batman number 50, And then there was some stuff relating to what happens in Batman 55 with Nightwing, and also Heroes in Crisis. So I want to highlight some of those things that he said here and get your reaction, Travis. So this is an article that I saw on Comic Book Resources, CBR. DiDio pointed to the recent outcry over what some called a bait and switch in the pages of Batman number 50. I think this is him saying, I think that issue was a wonderful every wonderful. I don't know if I accidentally miss some words or this is just really bad grammar on his part. I think Batman 50 was a wonderful every level of the way. A wonderful story, I think he's what he means to say there. The passionate debate and argument about whether Batman should or should not get married is exactly what the book should be generating. It's excitement because that's what fandom is built on in those arguments over how stories and characters should act and behave and what should happen next. If we get that back, this is the most interesting part to me. If we get that back, I feel we'll have a strong base where we can build our sense of community again. But I think that's what comics needs right now. One of the biggest problems in the industry is apathy right now, and we've got to get people excited and talking about stories again. What the hell are we doing, Travis? You and I, and people like us.
I mean, what rock is he living under?
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I feel like to some degree, there's, I don't know if it's too much passion or it's what. I mean, you kind of look at least the internet version of it, and I don't know, lots of times, beyond what we're doing, there's also this giant toxic level of passion that's there too. And so I'm like, where does he think there's not a discourse that this is, and to go back to the conversation about, the brouhaha over Batman issue 50, for instance, should they get married or not get married? I don't remember the conversation ever. I didn't see conversations over, I think it's wrong that he's getting married, or I think it's right that he's getting married. It was more the way you delivered this comic was utter BS. The bait and switch. It wasn't that people were concerned one way or the other about whether or not he got married. I mean, a lot of us suspected that it wasn't going to happen, and the reality of it all. It was the way they delivered it. The conversation wasn't a passionate conversation about superheroes getting married. Not that I heard. That was rarely the conversation. The conversation was how you designed the story and all these other issues around it and how you delivered it. So I don't know. I agree that that all our conversation is awesome. I mean, that's why I'm on social media largely, is to have comic book conversations with people, because I love comic books in all number of ways and whatnot. So I don't know that there's apathy. I don't know many people who read books for very long and go meh about them, right? So I just don't. I know this whole thing seems very him trying to create a narrative around stuff that's happened to make it sound like this is a plan of some sort.
Yeah,
when it's not. It's him talking out of the side of his face.
It really reminds me of Stan Lee is famous for being a really passionate, vocal promoter of Marvel Comics, right?
A huckster.
A huckster, exactly. So he's like the P.T. Barnum of comics.
Yes.
I think Dan DiDio, he's kind of like the dark multiverse version of P.T. Barnum.
Well, that's bad because P.T. Barnum in reality was not necessarily the best either. But anyway, that's funny.
Exactly. This is just Dan trying to, like you say, he's just trying to, I don't know, drum up something, come up with, I don't know. He's poking the bear is, I think, kind of what he's doing. And I'm not sure why, because we are, those of us out there, we are talking about this stuff. We are debating. We are discussing. I'm not sure what audience he's talking about.
Yeah, I don't either. Because like I said, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I get the idea that, yeah, they should be doing stories to get people talking about it. If you can get a story that makes people have a conversation about it outside of our tight community of comics, so if you get the larger media talking about, oh gosh, Batman's getting married, oh gosh, Thor's going to be a woman. Those things clearly are good. It makes people think about or look at or potentially buy the stuff and whatnot. But the way he delivers this here, like I said, to me, it just feels like he's trying to make something that was not there, acting like he's designed something. This is all some sort of design, which it's not.
Well, if you replace what he said here about what comics needs right now, the biggest problems in the industry is apathy right now, and replace that with we want the New York Times to be writing about Batman's marriage, then yeah, that totally makes sense. When
right.
You're dealing with the outside press, the larger press, the non-comics related press, sure. Yeah, that's what you should be doing, Dan. That's your job to get that out there. But then I don't know. It was I think poor choice of words, not well thought out. Typical Dan DiDio, yeah.
I mean, it really is. I mean, you added that to our list of things. I went and read that and I'm just like, oh my God, he drives me crazy. I don't hate the man, and I don't always disagree with where he pushes things to at times, or I disagree with it at the time, and then I kind of go, oh, okay, I see why we did that. And I appreciate his willingness to try something, and if that doesn't work, let's go try something else. Whether I like it or not, he's not. Well, he's stuck in some ruts, but he will just kind of throw things at the wall, and sometimes that I appreciate that. Just to see what sticks or whatever. But Lord Almighty, I will not be upset when that job goes on to somebody else. I don't think. I really don't. It's been a long time too. It feels like forever.
Yeah.
It feels like forever.
Certainly. Okay, so now we move to the sad portion of the show. Travis, it seems like every time we get together, we're talking about somebody in the comics industry, an artist, a writer, somebody who has died.
Mm.
And today is no exception. We found out that on September 24th that Batman artist extraordinaire Norm Brayfogle died, and there's a couple other things we're going to get to, but so as the notes I have here, Brayfogle was widely regarded as one of the definitive Batman artists, primarily for his run on Detective Comics from 1987 to 1993, alongside writer Alan Grant. He also worked on other things. Of course, he helped launch Batman Shadow of the Bat. He worked on, or he's the co-creator of the character Prime for Malibu Comics. He continued to work for DC Comics until 2013, but then suffered a stroke in 2014. He was 58.
Yeah, as I say, normally this is where I had that conversation. I say, well, all those Silver Age people that are, are getting up there in years. So we're going to see unfortunately, we're going to see a bunch of them start passing away because of this guy's not much older than us.
Exactly. And I don't, did you have a lot of Norm Brayfogle's Batman run?
I have a lot of the beginning of it. So actually, I have a huge chunk of a lot of that. I don't have the Shadow of the Bat stuff. I have little pieces of it and whatnot. Because then that came after the detective work and stuff. And that was during that slice of time in my life when I wasn't purchasing lots of books. But yeah, I mean, he's not my definitive Batman, but I get why he is for lots of people and whatnot. And certainly he was a lot of the Batman art that I read at the time. Yeah. Unfortunate.
Yeah, I have a big chunk of his work. Not as much as I thought I did. Quite honestly, when I was looking through my collection and seeing, well, what do I have of Mr. Brayfogle's work? and there's a lot of stuff I missed, but his work in my collection looms rather large in my memory.
Yeah,
So to me, we've talked before about, Jim Aparo is probably one of our
that's
definitive
mine.
Batman artists, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
Norm Brayfogle, for me, he's like top three
yeah.
for sure, because his Batman, while not as, it's not as realistic. That's not
Mhm.
probably not the best term, but not, and definitely not gritty, like say Frank Miller or whatever.
Right,
But his work is so expressive, so much emotion that was in there. I remember seeing covers and panel work where Batman has these huge eyes, because he's expressing surprise or whatever, and it's just not something you really saw anybody else doing with Batman at that time.
right.
And it was so very distinctive work, and I love it. I think he's one of the better, probably underappreciated artists from readers today, for
Yeah.
sure.
I didn't realize that he co-created as much stuff as he did either, I guess. I didn't realize that was the era that stuff was, because I don't pay total attention to. This is the first issue of so-and-so or whatever. But the ventriloquist, the rat catcher, Zaz, who I love. I love the Zaz character. Yeah. Jeremiah Arkham. I didn't realize that all that stuff was during his era of Batman.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And who was the mechanic that was in that run too, that he brought in too? He was the mute hunchback.
Right. Who?
Was it Harold? His name Harold or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
That was one of the really interesting concepts that I think it was Grant and Brayfogle that brought that in. I could be wrong about that, but I thought was a really cool idea that as soon as those guys were off the book, they kind of dropped it. So anyway, yeah, it's very unfortunate. I love that guy's work. So
yeah, it shocks me that he was so close to our age. I didn't realize. I mean, it's like, man, some of these people who were making comics that I love were super, were in my mind young when they were making said comics.
Yeah. I know. I think about that. So this was what.
So his Detective Comics is 87, right? That's the year that
starting,
that we graduated. So if he started in 87, that would have made him mid-20s, and he's the prime Batman artist for
mid to late 20s. Yeah,
makes him the prime Batman artist for 5 years or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do we do with our lives?
I know, right? we sit here and talk about people actually making something. Yeah, I know. Don't get me started on that. This is the next person that I'm going to talk about. I honestly don't know much about, nor probably have seen a whole lot of his work, but it's notable because Carlos Ezquerra, who died on October 1st at age 70, mm-hmm. was the co-creator of Judge Dredd. He also worked with Garth Ennis on Preacher and Hitman, and the Preacher thing will come into play here in a second too. So I don't know. Were you familiar with Mr. Ezquerra's work?
No, not really. I mean, I'm not a big Judge Dredd fan. I mean, I appreciate. I mean, clearly, if he's the co-creator, he set an aesthetic that still exists to this day. So, we modern comic book talkers, we tend to talk writers more than artists, but clearly when you're establishing something new, the artist is paramount to the aesthetic of what's going on. I mean, he created an entire world that still is put out and heavily read to this day. It's something they make movies about periodically, or attempt to make movies about periodically. So, yeah, I mean, I think he's a huge contributor just for that alone.
Yeah. Now, I forget, did you read Preacher?
Yes, I have read Preacher.
Do you remember his involvement with that book?
No, I don't.
I've not read more than the first 5 or 6 issues of that book. Although I now have all the trades collecting it. I still haven't read it.
Right. No, I don't play. I mean, it's been a very long time since I've
Yeah.
read it, so I don't place the name. So
yeah. Well, now I'll definitely be looking for it when I get to that. Speaking of Preacher, though, it was announced just recently that cover artist Glenn Fabry, who I should rephrase that, Glenn Fabry did covers for Preacher, did a lot of them. I don't know if he did all of them.
Yeah, I don't know either.
That?
Yeah,
anyway, he's recently been diagnosed with lung cancer and is undergoing treatment for that. And I saw his I think it was on Twitter, maybe it was a Facebook post. I saw that, and he's very much spirited about the fight that he's going through with this. And so wish him and his family a lot of luck.
Yeah.
And hopefully he recovers fully from this. Man, getting old sucks.
Yep.
Well, Travis, speaking of old, again, I wanted to bring this up specifically for you because I know you were a big, I hope I'm not wrong about this, you were a big Question fan, but yes. I think you were a big Montoya Question fan. Right?
Oh, I love Vic Savage as the Question too. Okay. Yeah, I own a lot of the older stuff with Vic Savage being the Question.
Okay,
one of my favorite miniseries is a Question miniseries where he's in Metropolis and he has to kind of deal with Superman and some urban shamans and whatnot. That run, I'm trying to remember who it is that wrote that off the top of my head. I can't. And I say it's one of my favorite, but I can't remember who the writers are. Absolutely brilliant. I absolutely am tickled by that book. So, yeah.
So are you looking forward then to him returning to DC continuity? So this will be in Action Comics 1005, where Vic Sage will be back as the Question.
Yeah, so cool. I didn't realize that was happening until you put this in here. I am not reading Action Comics. This makes me think more. Damn it, I'm gonna have to go read. Gonna have to go read Action Comics. I'm hoping that the introduction there, then hopefully we can get them someplace else. I did not like the New 52 version of any of those kind of the Question and Phantom Stranger and all. That was horrible renditions of the characters. So I'm hoping we go back to what was. So your conversation is going to be around this, right? Is the whole why not Montoya as opposed to Vic, right?
Well, yeah. My comment about this was why does DC especially feel like they need to go back to the I was going to say original incarnation of the character, but that's not even what they're doing. They're going back to a certain point of the character's development or stage of development or whatever, and ignoring what came before, what came after. For some reason, they seem to think that, like Vic Sage in particular, resonates more with fans of the Question than, say, the Montoya version, which I liked a whole lot more.
But there's a whole lot less of that in reality. And if I go to my kids and I go, "Who's the Question?" they're going to tell you it's Vic because they watch the cartoon.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up.
So in this case in particular, I get it. I get why it's this. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love the whole story of Montoya becoming that, and Charlie and all, that was really good. That was great. Greg Rucka writing, of a character and a character development and becoming something. But they blew it up. They blew that all up. It's gone. I guess then why do they choose to go where they go and where they don't go? So they shouldn't go back and use Alan Scott as Green Lantern, right? Because we don't want to go back to the old stuff. Is that what you're saying?
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, in that case, we went back to the Silver Age, Hal Jordan as Green Lantern, right? And ignoring what came before. And anyway, it's a complicated issue.
Yes.
Really, I guess my objection is they seem to want to go back to the Silver Age versions of these characters a lot. And
blame that on Bendis. I think that's a pure, complete Bendis call. I don't think they would have said anything if he had decided, I want to use, even though she's in Gotham right now, they'd have to find a reason to get her out of Gotham and put her in Metropolis. But I think it's purely Bendis.
Mm-hmm. You're right. You're right. I'm attributing creative choices by individual creators to the company because I don't like what I see.
Right.
I don't know. I've never enjoyed them arbitrarily, because they brought back Hal Jordan through the Green Lantern Rebirth. They brought back Barry Allen, and then they did the whole universe reboot thing and went back to earlier concepts for other characters. I don't know. I'm not sure why they want to do that, other than they think that these characters are more recognizable than other versions, even though, Wally West had a huge long time run as the Flash, for example. In the animated series, if you're going to bring up, the question in that regard.
Except for all those guys in red suits all look the same. So unless you remember their personal names, they all literally all are dudes in red suits. There's the difference between that and a clearly a faceless woman in a suit versus a faceless guy in a suit.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I'm not saying I'm right or they're right or what. I just find it interesting that they continually want to go back to earlier versions of these characters.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, and part of what you're talking about that, the fact is that what makes Montoya so great is we got to read this journey of her becoming that, right? So you haven't established in your head this whatever. I don't know how they're going to introduce Vic as the Question. He's just going to suddenly pop up as this faceless dude, and we're not going to really get, because it's in his Action Comics, we're not really going to get a long-term story of him becoming whatever it is, right? Mm-hmm. He's just going to randomly show up. So they could have picked anybody to be that.
Exactly.
It's meaningless. So I don't know. Like a lot of these characters, the only way they're going to have any real value is that if somebody actually chooses to do something more with them than them be window dressing in the greater scheme of Superman's existence.
Sure.
So I personally, I rather Montoya stay in Gotham and become a rich part of, Gotham PD than suddenly have her pulled out of that to be the window dressing of the Question without the background that goes along with it, because current readers aren't going to know that background unless you're specifically going and reading the comics that particularly had to deal with that, her progression to being the Question and all of that. Even if they made Montoya that, it would be meaningless. It would just be another random person that they slapped the title on. So without the story to back it up, it's all whatever. It's a character introduction that they need to then do something with it. So
okay. I still think it'd be better to have her anyway.
Okay.
Okay. Some Marvel news. So Marvel is going to celebrate its 80th anniversary with a bunch of one-shots starting next year, starting in January. This was announced at the New York Comic-Con Diamond Retailer Breakfast, which I read that article and I was hoping to, I don't know, get some retailer bits of news, but not really, which is interesting. But they're going to be doing the one-shots include Invaders by Chip Zdarsky and artist Carlos Magno and Butch Guice. Marvel Comics Presents will be coming back. with written by writers Charles Soule and Nascenti and Greg Pak, with artist Paulo Siqueira and others to be announced. And also Crypt of Shadows, Journey into Unknown Worlds, and War is Hell, which I assume are old titles from Marvel's Golden Age. I did not recognize any of those last titles. So,
but these are all one shots.
Yeah,
these are all just touching base on runs of comics from the olden days.
Except Marvel Comics Presents, right? Because that's not a Golden Age title.
It's a Silver Age title.
Is it Silver? I thought it was more of a modern thing that they did. Wasn't that the weekly book that they put out for a while?
I think that title though is older than that.
Is it? Okay.
I mean, they recycle some stuff. I mean, I could be wrong too. I mean, I'm not the authority on Marvel, but I thought that was that had some references to some of their older stuff and whatnot. But,
yeah, as I often discover as we are talking live here, that I should look up some stuff before we actually do talk about it. And this is one of those things. Oh well. I mention it because I like it when companies celebrate their longevity by doing special things like this.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to get we have Superman's 80th birthday. Next year will be Batman's 80th birthday celebration. So things like that. I just dig. So I thought I'd include that. It's interesting that Chip Zdarsky. I have a problem with Chip Zdarsky is doing Invaders. I'm sure it. I think I saw a cover image of this book or something, some promo art or whatever. It seems to be that they're going to. What I don't know is they're going to use the classic Invaders members, but what I don't know is, are they doing it in modern time, or are they actually going to tell like a World War II story featuring these characters?
Mm-hmm.
Which the reason I'm highlighting that one is because I always liked that Invaders book. I didn't read nearly enough of it, and for some reason, the Invaders resonate with me. Just I think mostly because I saw that book on the shelves. Couldn't buy it because I couldn't afford to buy all the comics that I wanted to back then.
Yeah.
But it really looked cool to me to see Cap and Namor and Human Torch.
Yeah.
And Toro. I always remember Toro.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so there's that. This next one, Travis, again for you. BPRD. We'll conclude with BPRD, The Devil You Know, number 15. Travis, how does this make you feel?
Sad that it's going to be actually over with. Because, I mean, they kind of hinted it was going to be over with. Mignola was going to leave comics. He was going to go be a painter. Decided he was done, so he shuttered Hellboy and Hell really quickly. And then they were kind of going to do this is the end. And they had this massive story going. The Earth literally cracked in half in places and stuff like that. And then Mignola went, "Oh no, I'm coming back to comics. I decided I really love comics and I'm going to keep doing comics." And so I thought, they kind of moved from what the comic has been building to all along. They defeated the kind of the bad guy for now, and this other bad guys rising up. Actual hell, demons from hell were becoming legitimately the problem to deal with. And now they're talking about shuttering the main book. They'll still do the Hellboy and the BPRD 19, whatever they choose to tell, these old stories, unforgotten stories kind of thing. But the actual line itself will be done. So I don't know if that means the war is over. I don't know if that means they're all dead. The latest issue that I read, there are characters that die in that in so unceremonially sort of way that was shocking. I mean, as I'm reading, I'm just like, you killed a person like that? I mean, just, random, shots to the head kind of a deal. And you're just like going, what? It was no buildup. It was no hero's death. They're just dead. And you're like going, how does that work that way? So I guess that clearly was the sign that this thing's all ending. But yeah, I don't know. I'm bummed. I love the comic. It's one of my favorite ongoing I've read, 100 plus issues of it. And even when it's not great, I still just really enjoy it. I'm heavily invested in it. And it's a bummer when something that's been around this long that I'm heavily invested in is going to shutter. I mean, like I said, we're going to have these other stories. It's not like I won't read those, but it's finite. At the end of the day where it all leads to, I guess. So I'm really curious to see how it ends. I'm worried it's not going to end very well. I loved the Abe Sapien run that was out, but when they decided they were ending it, it ended poorly. The last issues of it, the way they tried to land it. And unfortunately for me, I'm hard on endings. And if endings of things don't go well, it tends to kind of then, in my head, sour the whole run. So I am now very nervously waiting for issue 15 to come out. I think we're on like issue 9 right now. So I don't know. I'm now scared because the really good writer that used to be on the book, of course, left a while ago. John Arcudi was an amazing writer on the book. He left, and it's Mignola and Scott Alley kind of hanging around. He used to be the editor. He's helping write this out to the end, and it's just not as good as what it was. And then knowing there's an ending, now I'm just I'm very apprehensive. It's going to all come out. So I don't know.
When did BPRD start? Do you remember what year?
It's 20 some years old. I mean, so it would be on like 157 right now. So they don't really skip too many months in there. So I guess do the math. I don't remember, but yeah, I don't know. It's
a long time though.
A long time. I mean, and Dark Horse is basically that's been the machine that's basically kind of moved them forward. And to me anyway, it feels like that the Mignola universe has been the kind of their workhorse. And then they have these other comics they do.
Aside from Star Wars, yeah.
Right. And they've, with this being shuttered, the other stuff's just going to kind of be mini series along the way. Which I'm fine with them. That's how they release the stuff. I wonder sometimes, what's Dark Horse going to be without the big, about the workhorse there. I don't know. It'd be interesting.
So this next thing is for me because I kind of fell in love with this series from several years ago. I don't remember what year it was now. 2012 is coming to mind. But Dynamite Entertainment is launching a new Peter Cannon Thunderbolt series. And like I said, I really enjoyed that. I was like 8 issues, I think it was, 9 issues, something like it. It was a short run. And I was just really starting to love it. And then they ended it. And so this is a character that, because of that series, I knew of the character, but I didn't know a whole lot about the character. And through that series, I did learn about the character. I'm like, ooh, this is a really interesting character, an interesting concept, the things that they were touching on. And so I when I saw this, I'm like, ooh, that cool. They're bringing back this character that I kind of fell in love with. But then I read that Kieran Gillen is going to write it, which just ups the I need to buy this aspect with Casper Wingard, who worked on Limbo. I'm not familiar. I've heard the name, but I'm not.
Awesome comic book.
Okay.
Awesome comic book. I'm all over it. Like those two creators on the book. I love his art. The last thing that he worked on was Angelic, which I did not care for that book. That was a Simon Spurr and him on that book. I didn't care for it, but I love his art. Limbo was an awesome book. It didn't get near the recognition and readership that it should have had. So whereas I'm familiar with the Thunderbolts, I am not Peter Cannon in particular. I'm not that character. Don't know a lot about or invested in, but with these creators on the book, and I'm glad you pointed out because I completely missed this. I didn't catch that anywhere. And I have to admit that Dynamite isn't when I'm getting my comics, it's not a company that I look heavily at through their catalog to look at books that I might be interested in. So I'm glad you pointed it out, because I'll be picking this up. That's just two creators that whatever they're kind of working on, I'd be really curious to see what they do. So,
well, so yeah, hearing you talk about the artist now, I'm even more so interested in reading this book. So that's good news for us, I guess. Mm-hmm. Good news for some other people, however. We have a couple different awards situations. Travis, did we ever talk about the Ringo Awards in previous episodes?
I don't think so.
Yeah. So the Ringo Awards were the second annual Ringo Awards were held recently. I think it was on October 1st. Oh, it was during Baltimore Comic-Con.
Baltimore Comic-Con. Yeah, it's a Baltimore thing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they established this last year, and this, like I said, the second year. So I know on the previous episode we did talk about what the difference was between the Harveys and the Eisners. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to highlight what the Ringo Awards are about, and it's simply it's named after Mike Wieringo, who is a comic book artist, of course. Mm-hmm. So it's the Mike Wieringo Comic Book Industry Awards, which is an annual celebration of the creativity, skill, and fun of comics. The nomination ballot is determined, this is the difference between some of these other awards, by fans and pros alike. So theoretically, we could participate with this next year. If I'd known about it this year, I would have done it. Yep. But I'll be paying attention next year for this. And it was held at the Baltimore Comic-Con. And I wanted to pull up here. Hold on one second. Is this it? Yeah, here we go. Here's the list of the winners. There's a bunch of fan favorite things in here. Favorite hero, favorite villain. Really, although these are different. I mean, you might think that you'd see a lot of Marvel DC characters on here being talked about, and they're not. So that's interesting. So the favorite hero was Mags from Assassin Roommate by Monica Gallagher. Favorite villain, Arlo from Unordinary by Uru-chan. I don't know these. I'm not familiar with these at all.
No, neither am I.
Favorite new series, I Love You, YOO by Kimchi. Favorite new talent, Kimchi. Favorite publisher, Line Webtoon. So interesting.
Well, there's a whole world. There's a whole world of special art that me and you have no idea about. Between the manga stuff and the whatever the American version of that is, we clearly us old folks don't.
Yeah. Now I want to go take a look at this stuff. However, the next set of categories, they kind of delve back into familiar territory. Best cartoonist, which is writer / artist, I guess. Joel Jones won, which I could get behind that. Yep. Best writer, Tom King. Yeah, Tom King, big winner. Best artist or penciler, Lee Weeks. Boy, since I'm talking about Lee Weeks, Travis, Heroes in Crisis. I know they're set aside people's issues with Heroes in Crisis. That's a damn fine looking book. I think Lee Weeks is.
That's Clay Mann, though.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. As soon as I said, wait a minute, is that right? Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Oops. Clay Mann is killing it on Heroes in Crisis. That is. Sure. Oh my God, that's such a good looking book. Okay. Sorry, Clayman. Best inker, Mark Morales. Best letterer, no surprise there, Todd Klein. Longtime letterer, Todd Klein, does consistent work forever. Best colorist, Travis will be very pleased to see this, Dave Stewart.
Right on.
Best cover artist, Michael Cho. Which, no, don't like Michael Cho?
Not my thing, but.
Oh, okay. I like his work. Best series, Mr. Miracle from DC. Best single issue or story, Batman Elmer Fudd special by DC.
Yes.
Best original graphic novel, My Favorite Thing is Monsters from Fantagraphics. And there's some overlap here with some of these titles and creators with
Sure.
with some of these other awards. And I think the Batman Elmer's Fudd special won also Best Humor Comic. Okay, I mean, it was kind of funny, but I don't know. Any others? Any others? Other works that you want to highlight here, Travis?
No.
Oh, Best Kids Comic or Graphic Novel: DC Superhero Girls. And here's an interesting one: Best Presentation in Design, won by Saga.
Well, I wonder what that entails.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the other.
So, I mean, is that phonographic typically? Not phonographic. What's that called? There's somebody that doesn't have a name. They're just like a company or whatever that does a lot of the image stuff. It seems, the graphic design of the book. I'm trying to remember what it's called. Starts with an F. I can't remember. Anyway, I wonder if...
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember the name either.
Right.
But Jane from Boom Studios, Monograph by Chris Ware, Monsters Volume 1, the Marvel Monster Bus, Valiant Entertainment. My favorite thing is Monsters from Fantagraphics, Skyborn from Boom. And this is the one that kind of surprised me that perhaps this didn't win, is X-Men Grand Design from Marvel. Because I've heard a lot of good things about that, design-wise. So interesting choices. But again, it's voted on by fans and pros, so it's kind of like the People's Choice Awards
right?
Of award comics awards. But like I said, I'll be keeping an eye on that for next year to participate in. And then I mentioned the Harvey Awards. Those were also announced. This was announced during New York Comic Con on October 5th, on Friday, as we were recording this. So not only were the awards presented, the award winners announced, but I actually had this in as a bit of pre-news before, but Dave Gibbons was inducted into the Harvey Awards Hall of Fame during this as well. So I thought that was really cool. Yeah. But Book of the Year, Travis, was Monstrous.
Yeah.
That won the Eisner too, didn't it? Right?
Yes. It's cleaned house. It's cleaned house, which really, I mean, I enjoyed the book. I read it in singles. Like I said, I enjoy it. Was it all that? I don't know. I mean, it's not necessarily my thing, but clearly there is a group of people that really are impressed with the book.
It's a beautiful book.
There's some interesting conversations that came out of that. They talked to the author that I was curious about. There was a conversation with her about her refusing to allow Monsters to be opted as an anime, which clearly with the type of art that it is, you would think it lends itself to that. It has some elements, in my opinion, that are manga-like that would then lend itself to being some sort of animation. And she refuses to allow it to be animated. She will not, because in her mind is that if it gets animated, that it ultimately ends up being whitewashed and these are my words, not her words. The wrong people take ownership of the character and what's going on, and then the characters and the elements that are in it, which I thought was pretty bold of her, not just to say, but to do, because she's a business. I mean, she's an artist, but she's also got to be a business person too, right? There's money involved, and we pretty much all of us, unless you've just got so much money you don't know what to do with it, we all make decisions based on finances at some point or another. And I would assume that she could have. My thought is, I'm like, wow, you'd think you could continue to have enough control over it that you could sell it as an animation in a way that you would still have enough control over it that you would be comfortable with it and be able to make a bunch more cash, right? But I don't know, it's almost like she doesn't want, right now she feels like her audience is the people she wants as her audience, and that if it becomes an animation, that she ends up with this audience that she, I don't know, doesn't want. And that's just my interpretation of what was said. I don't want to be putting words into her mouth, because I'm not. It's just, I just thought it was really a curious kind of a thing. And just, I'm surprised. And I'm also just surprised that this book has basically won the award I mean, just about in every one of this whole year's worth of awards things for whatever that's worth.
Mm-hmm.
So,
mm-hmm. Yeah. I like I've said before, I've read the first volume of it and really enjoyed it, but it wasn't something where it's like I have to read the next one.
right. It's slow moving. It's really slow moving. Reading it in singles,
yeah.
It is. Like I said, I enjoy it. There's really intriguing things that are going to happen and whatnot, but it is a slow march to wherever it's going. It's
and I mostly am reacting to the book from just the visual level, not necessarily the storytelling level.
Right.
And maybe that's why I didn't feel like I needed to go rush out and get it. But like I said, it's a beautiful looking book. It's there's not much out there like it, or maybe not at all. I don't read everything, so I don't know.
Right.
but the stuff I have read, it's unique, and I can totally see why it would win a bunch of awards now.
Yeah.
So let's see. Next up, a digital book of the year, which Travis would never know about. Barrier by Brian K. Vaughan, Marcus Martin. And
I know that book though.
Vicente. What you do know about that book?
Yeah, I mean, because they put out part of it as Free Comic Book Day.
Oh, right.
So,
yes, they did.
So it was in print.
Wait a minute. Then how did it win Digital Book of the Year?
Because the whole book is actually in digital form, right?
There's no purity in these awards.
It's one of those pay what you want for, right? I mean, isn't that another one of those Bendis?
That is, the panel syndicate. That's their model. Yeah. Yep. Best children or young adult book: The Prince and the Dressmaker. Looks like this is a tie. The Prince and the Dressmaker and the Tea Dragon Society. These are from First Second and Oni Press, respectively. I'm not familiar with those books. And then I want to say, best manga, my lesbian experience with loneliness from Seven Seas. And then finally, best European book, California Dreamin', Cass Elliot Before the Mamas and the Papas from First Second.
How is that the best European book? Whatever.
Right? That's what I thought. It was like,
yeah, I saw that title. I'm like, okay.
It's by Penelope. Stupid American. I can't pronounce these other names. Bajot. So, that.
Not a subject matter that interests me in any way, shape, or form.
That is interesting. It's best European book about an American subject matter. Presumably, I mean, we're just going on the title here. Who knows what the book is really about?
But that's true. That's true.
And like I said, Dave Gibbons won or was inducted in the Hall of Fame, along with Roz Chaste, who has done work for the New Yorker, Scientific American, and Harvard Business Review. So, beyond what we think of as comics, right? So that's really cool that they have that. And Dave Gibbons, they only put, Roz got 3 different titles. Dave Gibbons, they put just Watchmen. And, Dave Gibbons has done a whole lot more than just Watchmen.
Exactly. Did a lot before Watchmen.
Exactly. Yeah. It's weird that but it's the best known, I guess.
I was going to say, one is college level subject matter, and the other stuff maybe isn't. So
that's right. Okay. Speaking of New York Comic-Con news, so now we're going to get into some of that specifically. Travis, I don't remember. Did you mention this on air, or was it something we were talking about before we started? But Bendis, no, this is not. We have not talked about this. Okay, so I wanted to point out fan favorite Brian Michael Bendis. And we also talked about DC's imprints before, and so we get another imprint. This is Bendis's imprint. It's called Wonder Comics. And it's going to be as was reported, a personally curated line of teen-focused, in-continuity comic books scheduled to debut in early 2019, which includes Young Justice, featuring, I believe, the Superboy, Connor Kent, Tim Drake, I want to say Robin. I don't know. Impulse. What's Impulse's name? I've forgotten. Bart. I believe it's featuring those characters. But this was the reason it looks like that Patrick Gleason's run with Bendis on one of the Superman books was cut short because they were going to go do this. Mm-hmm. Naomi, which is a book that Bendis will co-write with David Walker, and art by Jamal Campbell. I don't know anything else about that. Wonder Twins, written by Mark Russell of the Flintstones and other books. But that's, boy, just Mark Russell being attached to this makes me want to take a look at it. Yeah, even though I can't stand the Wonder Twins.
Because I'm curious, because of course, for me in my head, Mark Russell tackles strong subject matter in mm-hmm. all of the books. I mean, even the Flintstones, which was fun, it still was. So if it's a teen book, I would hope that doesn't mean these books are dumbed down, because there's no reason to do that, because my teens were way smarter than I was at their age. So I just don't know. I am curious about that because he's on it. Yeah.
Yeah. And art by Stephen Byrne, who did the Justice League Power Rangers, which I didn't read it, but based on what I saw of the art, looked pretty cool. Mm. But is this the Wonder Twins, the Zan and Jaina thing, or is it just they're just using that title to do something else? I don't know. And then finally, for us old fogies, Dial H for Hero, an updated take on the Silver Age classic from writer Sam Humphries and artist Joe Quinones. What do you think, Travis? Any of these books sound good to you?
Well, I'm curious about the Wonder Twins. I'm not. I mean, part of me is tempted by the Young Justice just because I like Patrick Gleason's art. I'm not sold on the writer for that book because I'm not a huge Bendis fan. So, I don't know. I mean, I will look at them. They're clearly not geared towards me because I haven't been a teen for a while, if that's the case. I'm curious about the incontinuity of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, as we talked off air, there's quite a few books out that are just super heavy and grim and gritty, reality-based superhero book. And then how do you take those same characters, unless they're in continuity, but they're nowhere else except for in that? So if those characters are nowhere else ever except for in this, I mean, so how does that make them in continuity if they never touch? I mean, it's cute.
Why even bother?
Cute. Right.
Why even bother with the incontinuity thing? They did the Mystic U book.
Clearly out of continuity.
Right, but just go do something like that. Just say, here's this book over here, and tell some stories with these characters. It doesn't have to be in continuity. We don't have to worry about whether Connor Kent Superboy is replacing, or the Jonathan Kent Superboy, all that crap. It's right. Don't worry about it. Just publish some books and tell some good stories. I don't know why we don't. So this is coming from a person who used to love continuity, and that was one of the things that really drew me into the DC universe in particular, was this progression of the Golden Age characters to the Silver Age characters to the modern characters, all this stuff, and it all counted in a blah 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 blah. I don't care anymore. Just tell me some good stories.
Yeah. So I mean, so that aspect of it, I don't know. If I don't, I mean, I think it's like, I would think it was a curious comment. It, like I said, I'm like you. It doesn't matter to me anymore. Tell me a good story, and it could just be the most loopiest, whatever. How you gonna weave that into the rest of the world? I don't care, because it doesn't matter. I'm curious about these. I think it's interesting to teen. I guess I'm also teen focused. I don't know what that means either. Right. When they say teen focused, that means the characters are all teens, or does that mean they're actually trying to focus?
Yeah, good point.
And I mean, and that goes. And granted, there's a certain appeal. If I'm a kid, I want to read. Potentially, I want to read superhero comics that have kids in it. Cool. That's a hard market. I mean, of all the markets, I think that's the hardest. I mean, I think it's way easier to go after children who have parents helping them read the books than it is to go after them if it's the teen market they're trying to hit here. There are so many other things that are competing for their attention that's a hard market. And what they've also then announced, they already have plans for a second wave of his books, of his imprint. They announced either this morning or late last night. Amethyst is going to be part of, they're going to introduce Amethyst back into the Young Justice book. And then in the second wave, she will have her own book. So I'm like, cool. I love Amethyst. I'm not excited about Bendis writing Amethyst. I can't remember who it was they said was going to write it in the second wave, but I was more interested in that. So that's not an attraction to this first group of books. But I like that character. It's a fun character in a kind of a fun world. So I'm curious to see what potentially gets done with that. But yeah, they already kind of hinted that there's a second wave. From a purely, we're trying to bring in as big an audience as we can. There's a whole bunch of comics written and basically drawn by a bunch of dudes. If you're looking for that larger market, that's kind of weak. One female driven character book, I'm assuming, with Naomi. But of course written by Bendis, because Bendis is allowed to write little girls, and I don't know. So from that aspect, it's in a world that I feel like we should be moving towards diversity. I know for some people that's a hot button topic or whatever. It's curious that he's curated this whole thing, and he doesn't know any women that want to write books under his titles, or what? Whatever, for whatever that's worth. But
yeah, that's exactly. I saw somebody pointing out the lack of the Wonder Girl character from Young Justice.
Right.
And then also what you just said about, the lack of female creators being involved in this lineup.
Yeah. I just think it's strange in this day and age, if you're going to do a new imprint, that's supposed to have this kind of appeal, that you wouldn't spend a little more energy towards that. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Teresa, I'm going to skip this next thing. And go to some more Marvel Comics news that was announced. So they announced a new Spider-Man title, The Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, from writer Tom Taylor and artist Juan Cabal. I noted it because it's Tom Taylor, who worked on Injustice. And I know some other things too, but that's the
Wolverine. One. He did the last Wolverine.
Okay.
Now she's X-23 again, right?
Okay.
But while she was Wolverine, I know lots. I didn't read that. I know lots of people who absolutely loved his run of that book. That it had a lot of fun stuff in it. He introduced, some new, younger, preteenish, female characters, and there was a lot of fun in there. I am familiar with those characters because they bled over into a couple issues of Kate Bishop Hawkeye. So, and those are his creations, and they were fun characters. So the guy can write fun stuff. I know because he's Australian, and I know that he has written a season or two. There's an Australian animated TV series that he's responsible for too. So it's not like the realm of younger audience stuff is outside of what things that he does, even though you look at the Injustice books, and those are incredibly dark. The superheroes are anything but. I mean, they murder each other and all kinds of stuff based off of a fighting game. So you think of that and you're like, oh my gosh, it's all this, dark, gory stuff and whatnot. But he clearly has working knowledge of writing youth-oriented type stuff. And my assumption is that that's what, when you say friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, that's more what this is supposed to be, right?
I don't know. Yeah. Or is it just, riffing on what Peter Parker always says about himself, and just an excuse to have another Spider-Man.
Another Spider-Man title.
But I, Tom Taylor, I wanted to point that out. But I also, because you once were a huge Spider-Man fan.
Yep.
And I don't know if are you, given the changes recently? So we got
Dan Slott went away. It is God. Now I said Dan
Nick Spencer.
Nick Spencer, yes.
And Ryan Otley on art.
Uh-huh.
So did you dip into that or no?
No, I have mixed feelings about Spencer, and so I decided not to. Even though he's written stuff I've absolutely loved. His Superior Foes of Spider-Man is a brilliant run of books. It is funny and somehow sneaks in very poignant things in amongst it. It's a lot of fun. But no, I was gonna. And at the last second, when it came to ordering the books, I chose not to. I know lots of people that are really excited about it, and basically it's brought fun back to Spider-Man. So that's awesome and whatnot. Ryan Otley, in my mind, that's such a perfect artist. I mean, just from the stuff we've seen him do with Invincible, that would just be right up his alley as far as type of art, art and type of book that he would be on. So, but I haven't. I probably should have, but I did not jump back into Spider-Man because I kept saying I'm just waiting for Slott to get off the book and then I'm going to try it again, and then I chose not to. So
now you have another opportunity here with the Tom Taylor written book if you want.
Yeah.
Speaking of Spider-Man, Travis, so people know, and we have this Google document where we throw things on there, and I asked Travis if he had a chance because he plays more video games than I do, and the new Spider-Man game came out recently, and all I've been hearing is
how awesome it is.
How awesome it is. And so I thought maybe you might have played it, but that's not the case, right?
Nope.
So I'll let you know, Travis. As of yesterday, I went down to my brother-in-law's to pick up some stuff, and he was playing it.
Oh.
And so I got to sit down for about half an hour and watch him play the game. Oh my God.
Right.
It looks like so much fun.
Well, I just hear it's awesome because here's the thing is all Spider-Man games before this have all been based off of movies. So you have to kind of follow some movie plotline-ish sort of a thing. This is a game that's actually written to just be its own game. It's got its own storylines, its own thoughts, its own whatever. And to some degree, that alone, I think, makes it a much better game than what has come prior to it. It just, I see lots of screenshots for it. It just looks like tons of fun, which is what a Spider-Man game should be. Tons of fun, right?
Yeah. I mean, visually, it just looks really cool. The fighting, the web slinging, fighting, acrobatic part of it is just awesome.
Yeah, I love watching him walk down the street giving people finger guns at people and stuff. I don't know. It's all the cute stuff that I think is fun about the game. So
yeah. So anyway.
I'll be playing it. My kid rents. He has a GameFly subscription, so it's on the list. So when he gets it, we'll be playing it.
Yeah. Seeing that. So my brother-in-law also has that, and so he actually offered it to me next weekend. If I come down and get it, I can borrow it for a while.
Nice.
So I'll get to play that. We'll see how it goes. I normally don't talk about things like video games and movies and stuff, TV shows on these comic news episodes, but I couldn't resist that one because it was pretty cool. All right, we are at the home stretch here. I got two more things that I wanted to talk about. This news, I saw this news before New York Comic Con, but I think the bit I'm going to talk about next is from New York Comic Con. But at first I saw that John Cassaday has joined Humanoids as their chief creative officer. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I know Cassaday has published work through Humanoids. That kind of makes sense. but it's like, I didn't include it in our list of things to talk about. But then I saw that joining as the new director of creative development was Mr. Mark Wade, and I thought, okay, yeah, he's done similar things. He worked at Boom for a while, kind of running that show. He's done other things too. He has his own, much like Panel Syndicate with Brian K. Vaughan, he's got his own website, web comic development thing with Thrillbent. And so I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Those two together, that should be, producing some interesting books, perhaps, with whomever they're going to bring into it. But then what was announced, and what I wanted to point out, was that Humanoids is now launching as they say, a major initiative next year to publish original comic book stories written and illustrated by some of the biggest names in comics. And so they unveiled H1, an imprint, yet another imprint. We're talking an awful lot about imprints these days, Travis.
Yes.
But this one is featuring a shared superpowered universe with all new characters and stories.
How are you not excited about this? I don't understand. You said on Twitter, I just don't care. I'm like, how? How is that?
Exactly. See, I'm like, bring on the shared superhero universe. And for some reason, despite the fact that Cassaday and Wade are involved in this,
well, and
to mention all of the creators that was announced with this.
Exactly.
I don't know. I don't know. What is wrong with me, Travis? What are you excited about this? Is this something that it's your?
And normally I would be like, okay, it's going to be another superhero book. I'm actually pretty excited about it. I'm excited to, as long as they don't go too crazy and it's too much. Part of me is kind of excited if it's a small superhero universe, picking up 3 or 4 titles that are all kind of connected in some sense, that I can. There's no way, right? There's no way to get the Marvel universe, or I'm not going to. There's no way I'm going to get the whole DC universe. It's just too big. It's too big of a whatever. Now it's you have to pick and choose. But if this is small enough with enough interesting people doing enough different books, it's all fresh. I get to see them. I get to potentially see a world start from nothing and become something. I don't know. I'm excited about that. How often do we get the opportunity to do that? You don't. And how often do you get the opportunity as a new reader to get in on that? We have that experience now because we've been reading like DC for as long as we have. We feel like we've been around for all of it. But
what comes around goes around.
Right. I don't know. So I'm just curious to see what and these are interesting enough people with enough artists that I like, and I'll be intrigued to see what they do in a superhero world. Yeah, I'm on board. I'm going to check it out.
Well, I'm going to challenge you on one thing you said, because it seems like we have had a lot of other publishers announcing new superhero universes.
And then not committing to it.
Well, maybe, but Action Labs they started doing some stuff. I got some of that. Lion Forge has been doing it for a few years now.
Yeah, I missed out on that.
Yeah. So. Okay. So, to me, it's like, oh yeah, another publisher is doing this. However, I do want to point out so they have they talk about the core team of H1 architects. So these are the people that are developing this new shared universe. Kwanzaa Oseyefo,
sure.
Who worked on Black. Yannick Paquette, everyone should know Yannick Paquette, Wonder Woman Earth 1, they say here, among other things. And yeah. Carla McNeil.
Carla.
Oh, sorry, you're right. I don't have my glasses on. Carla Speed McNeil from Finder Sensation Comics. Ooh, Sensation Comics. I can go back and look and see what that is about. Working with Phil Briones, Vanessa Del Rey, Cheryl Lynn Eaton, Mike McCone, and Afu Richardson. So yeah, but my question to Travis in the notes was, how excited are you for this shared universe?
I'm not like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. But I'm curious. I like superhero comics. That's why I read some of the comics that I read. Clearly I like all kinds of comics. but I like superhero comics and a whole new super world that you can kind of maybe do something different with, or more so, the greater challenge. How do what's a superhero world going to look like that isn't what's already been done a million times? I mean, that's a huge challenge. I'm curious to see that. I don't know. I'm, like I said.
Well, I guess maybe you're kind of building some excitement for me now. Now that you're evangelizing it.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, other than knowing the people that are on there, I don't know if this is going to be some, awesome, experience or whatever. I have no idea, but I don't know. There's something cool about getting on the ground level of a genre that I like. I mean, I like the superhero genre, and I'd be curious to see. Everybody keeps complaining about the fact, don't mess with the stuff that's out there, make something new. Lots of people complain about that sort of thing. Here's a new opportunity.
Very true. Very true. Yeah. Do you know, I only know Humanoids through the books they publish, the trades and original graphic novels they publish. Do they publish single issue comics?
No idea. No idea.
So I'm curious, are these going to be? Is this their foray into that? If they don't, or is it going to be OGNs that they're doing? That'll be interesting if that's the case.
Mm-hmm. And see, now that may change my opinion on how I want to read it, because I'm a single issue. I like serialized. I like my superheroes serialized. I just do. I don't know why that is. I'm conditioned. I guess that's how I consume those. And so for me, superhero comics, I like reading serialized.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I don't know. Come on. Don't you think is it mostly that you're conditioned to read them that way?
Yeah. I mean, it is. It definitely is.
How many superhero books, OGNs have you read, for example?
Very few because there aren't that many.
True.
I mean, all you get is trades, which are single issues slapped into one thing. So it's not the same, in my opinion, as writing something that's. I'm all for a long story that's written and created all in one chunk. As soon as you give me a trade, it's a bunch of stuff that people wrote knowing they had to write a 20-page story with these elements every 20 pages to be successful, and then it doesn't read the same way.
Okay, I'm gonna have to dig out some of my superhero OGNs for you.
Cool.
To take a look at. There's one in particular that I got recently that I'm really curious what you think about it. So we'll have to talk about that some other time. But
cool.
But definitely, I will be now looking at Humanoids in terms of this H1 imprint to see what they're going to be producing and who's involved with what and how it looks. And so it's now on my radar. So that's not a bad thing. I just, like I said, well, here's another superhero universe. Yay. but I should be more like Travis. We all should be more like Travis.
No.
Yay.
Yay.
Okay. Final thing, unless you have something else new to reveal, Travis.
Nope.
Okay. This was actually from, I don't know, Friday, maybe Saturday. I don't remember when I saw this, but I left it for last because I like the way it feels. Ending on a I think a very good note, a high note. So Raina Telgemeier has announced recently that she will be releasing her new book. It's a new memoir. This will come out in September. This is called Guts. So we have she's produced Smile. There's another one. Oh my gosh, I can't remember. I'm remembering Drama and Ghosts, but there's another one. Sisters. Drama or Smile and Sisters are about her and her family and what things she went through when she was younger. This is another memoir, I assume, about covering similar themes, but it's called Guts. So I'm like, wow, that's really interesting. I want to know a lot more about this. And then not only that, but then So that's coming out in September. But in April, she's coming out with an interactive journal and how-to guide. So this is Raina Telgemeier's How to Do Comics book.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't wait to see this. I'm going to get this for Madison. Really, for me, but for Madison. Because she's been expressing some interest in making comics. She's been drawing more. So this, and she loves Raina Telgemeier's work. As do I. I mean, she and I did an episode on the podcast about Smile. We plan to do more. So now there'll be another book for us to talk about. And I just think it's so cool that Telgemeier's putting out new work, one, and then two, I just saw this morning, Travis. Somebody on Twitter, I'm going to pull that up here real quick. This is Abraham Reisman on Twitter. At Abraham Joseph is the handle. Who said, I've had multiple conversations with people who work for major brands at New York Comic Con who had never heard of Raina Telgemeier, which goes to show you how myopic the geek industry is when it comes to where this whole enterprise is going. But the fact that they aren't aware of possibly the single best-selling creator currently working in comics, just because she makes stuff at Scholastic for young girls, is a sign that the dinosaurs may die off sooner than you think. And I just thought that was really interesting because I had no idea who Raina Telgemeier was just a couple years ago until Madison brought home Smile. Mm-hmm. And she's bringing home this stuff, and I'm so like, ooh, you got that at the school library? Let me read that, because I'm always interested in comic books that she's interested in. Plus, I also want to make sure it's probably appropriate.
Right.
I assume it is because it's a school library, but I'm always wanting to learn and discover. And I fell in love with Telgemeier. And now when I have conversations myself with other people, people who've been reading comics for a while, just like this person on Twitter pointed out, they had no idea. They had no idea. And even if they knew about Raina Telgemeier, they don't know that she is one of the best-selling creators out there.
Right. That she's outselling like entire lines.
Exactly.
Yeah. Not like just single issues. I mean, she's selling more than if you take like the top 10 comics that, we always see listed in the direct market. She outsells all of them put together, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's this whole other market that is a secret to a lot of comic book fans.
Yeah.
But not a secret to the kids. That there's that whole other secret market that when everybody starts touting, sales are awful and this or that. No, it's just sales of the things that you're looking at are, not what they used to be back in the grand old days or whatever, but it's there.
Mm-hmm.
It's there for sure.
And I think Mr. Reisman also in a later post on Twitter said something about, what will it mean for the generation like Madison's, who grows up reading Telgemeier's how-to book, and what is that? What kind of comics will be produced because of that? Because that he was saying that Raina's book might just be this generation's How to Draw the Marvel Way book. Mm. I just thought that was a really cool thought, and totally makes sense. And I don't know if I'll live long enough to see the results of this, really, but I hope to. But it makes me excited to see what comics will be like because of contributions like Telgemeier's books.
Mm-hmm. Well, so her how-to book is how to share your smile. So it's how to share your bio book.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
it's called Share Your Smile. Yeah.
Right. Because she has her book Smile. So I'm assuming it's teach you how to do your own version of that. At some point, I mean, there's always going to be a market. There's always been a market, and will always continue to be a market that is my slice of life, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a larger world. So I don't know, when he makes that statement, which sounds great. It does. In my mind, it sounds great. Awesome. There's this larger picture and whatnot. But if those people who are learning, how to write their own slice of life book don't expand beyond that, the market isn't going to be 100% slice of life books.
No,
there'll always be a market for that, but
yes, but I think I don't know. I have been more interested in personal memoir comics than much of the stuff I read month to month. So, and most of those are, not most, all of them are OGNs.
Right.
They're books. They're not monthly floppies that I'm getting. And those have, for the most part, I remember those long after I read issue 600 and blah, blah, blah of, Detective Comics or whatever. And so I can just imagine how much more expansive that market could be. How many personal stories, personal perspectives we'll get because of this effort, this push. It's just, I
sure.
can only, we in the superhero loving segment of comic books, we've had a certain run, viewpoint, perspective, whatever, that I don't know. I love the stuff, just like you said. I love superhero comics. I don't think that will ever go away for me. But there's just so much more out there
100%.
to experience, and not just from a fictional narrative standpoint, but I don't know, the memoir stuff. I think that in large part it's still an untapped market, and I welcome what is to come, I guess is my point. Definitely. There needs to be more of it. I want 10 years from now or 20 years from now, I want to read what Madison's personal memoir is in comic book form.
That'd be awesome.
And other people, other perspectives, not the old white guy's perspective. I've read so much of that. I don't care about that anymore. I want to read more about people of color and women and other sexual orientations and everything. It's all there. It's all a possibility, and all should be expressed and explored. And I just can't wait for that.
Definitely.
Okay, well, I guess that's it, right? We got I've no more papers in front of me, no more notes. So, Travis, are we done with the news for September plus New York Comic Con stuff?
Yeah, I think so.
So does that mean when we do October's news that it's going to be really short compared to this? I think about 2.5 hours we'll have been talking.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, every time I think, there's not going to be that much to talk about this month, and there's something will show up and change all of that. So
and I always cut stuff out before we start talking, and as we are talking, I tend to cut stuff out. So maybe I just need to be more judicious about about the stuff I cut or allow in. Anyway, so that's the news from our perspective. Our commentary on the news, I guess, is the more appropriate thing to say for September. And like I said, for a little bit of the New York Comic Con news. So I'm glad we were able to do that, where we could incorporate some of the New York Comic Con news. I think that's the last kind of major con for the year, isn't it? As far as newsworthy stuff coming out. Yeah.
Typically, yeah.
Yeah. So then the next big con from our perspective is Emerald City Comic Con in March, right?
Yeah.
Not
March, right.
Not that they release a whole lot of news out of Emerald City Comic Con, but it's because it's one of the big local. It's 8 hours away, but there or thereabouts. But it's not 8 hours. I don't know why I keep saying 8 hours. It's only about 6. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Depends on what time. But depends on what time you get into Seattle in the traffic,
well,
right?
that's very true. Yeah, because it usually takes us, and once we get, because we usually get there like 4, 5, 6.
Oh,
Once we hit that, it takes another hour for us to get to the hotel.
right.
But anyway, I guess we'll just see what happens next. Maybe we'll we'll skip and do October, November. But anyway, I don't know why I'm talking about this. It'll be what it is when we get there. Okay. Thanks always, Travis, for joining me for this discussion. I mentioned that you have the Odd Fellows Thoughts channel on YouTube. Do you want to also point people to Twitter or anything else that you want to promote or have people go to discover more about your thoughts about comic books?
Well, clearly there's the YouTube channel. That's where I do most of my blabbering at these days. And I am on Twitter. I think you can just type in Phil's Thoughts and I'm the one that pops up. Or if you can remember to do the _Gaunt_man, because I refuse to change that now that I've had it for so long. You can find me that way and hit me up. Hit me up that way too. So
yeah. All right. And as always, people can go to longboxreview.com to find this posted, as well as all of the podcast episodes that I have in the audio only feed. And you can leave comments there as well. You can also email me at longboxreview@gmail.com, or you can converse with me on Twitter at longboxreview. So thanks for joining us. That we had some viewers there, but nobody was chatting with us on this time, unfortunately. So
they're all off watching Doctor Who now.
They are all, yes, exactly. Travis and I are missing the premiere of the new Doctor Who season. So I got to go and watch that, Travis. So do you. And not to mention get some lunch, because it's about that time for us. So I will leave you all. Thanks for watching the video. For those listening in the audio only feed, thanks for listening. And we will talk to you later. Bye-bye.